Hey guys, Ghazzy TV here with another Path of Exile 2 video, and today I'm going to tackle the Warrior and its two ascendancy choices coming in early access. Now do keep in mind that the game will be receiving a ton of more content during early access, and once the game launches, each class will have 3 ascendancy choices. However, in the early access, when we start it, we're only going to have 2 choices. The Warrior brings us the Titan and the Warbringer, and they're very different. Now, based on the reveal footage and the playtest that I've done myself of the game, the Warrior class itself is designed to be a pretty chunky, slower hitting class, and it compensates the lower speed with significantly harder hitting abilities and defensive layers or choices. It's only fair to point out, though, that out of all of the classes in the game that I've spent time on with the playtest, the Warrior is the one I've spent the least time playing. However, I felt it would be unfair to tackle all the other ascendancy choices here on YouTube and then ignore the Warrior, so I'm going to give you guys my personal best take on the choices and experiences that I've gathered, or based of those rather. Whoa. A lot of you guys watching this video are not even subscribed yet. As every YouTuber does, we're going to have to ask you guys to hit the like button, leave a comment, and subscribe for more content. The reason we do that is because it actually helps the channel out more than you believe. Like, it's absolutely crazy how much it does. So if you find yourself enjoying the content, do me a favor, hit those buttons, and let's continue with the video. Now, as mentioned before, there are 2 choices, one being the Titan, focusing heavily on heavy stuns. Besides that, the emphasis on stunning enemies, then taking advantage of the targets being stunned. The revealed nodes also dive into slams and the crushed mechanic, which in PoE 1 makes enemies have a lower physical damage mitigation. I believe it's 15%. Let's check out the ascendancy nodes. Starting with the first comment of there's a lot of nodes here, and most of them, we have no idea what they're doing. There are 3 nodes revealed, similar to what we saw on the Ranger, for example. However, for the Titan, the first node is a 2-point connector on the left north side, and it's called the Earthbreaker. There's a 20% chance for any of your slam skills that you use yourself, not from a totem, to cause aftershocks, which is simply them echoing itself, doing more damage after the fact of it hitting. The other node is also a 2-point connector on the southern part of the ascendancy tree called Crushing Impact, and this makes all of your hits are crushing blows. Now, we don't know if this is going to change in PoE 2, but the crushed mechanics in PoE 1 is, like I mentioned earlier, lowering physical damage mitigation, and I believe that's 15% in PoE 1, but again, we don't know how this will be in PoE 2. Third node is a connecting node to the crushing blow called Surprising Strength. So 40% more damage against heavy stunned enemies. Like I mentioned earlier, again, it felt like a lot of the Titan is mostly about slam attacks, crushing them to lower their armor, and then just focus on stunning the enemies based of these nodes that we've seen. This might not be the only focus this ascendancy have, but as of now, that's what we're seeing. So stunning enemies is very important. You're able to build up that stun threshold, get the enemies locked down, and then smack them to smithereens. And that seems to be the general gameplay of the Titan itself. It's a little bit slower gameplay pacing with hard-hitting big abilities and then stun locking essentially your enemies as best you can. And that seems to be the focus for this class. The Warrior's second choice, though, is the Warbringer, which seemingly has a heavier focus on war cries for buffing or debuffing enemies, as well as ancestral powers, such as melee totems. Now, raw damage output, rather than the Titan's focus on stunning their targets, seems to be the focus for this type of ascendancy, allowing people that want to play the Warrior fantasy to choose between the more chunky, slower-paced, onga-bunga, big-hit, slamming Titan, and versus a more fighter-like, warcry, buffing, debuffing, systematic playstyle of the Warbringer. But let's dive into the ascendancy nodes. First up, we have Answered Call. This grants you the skill Ancestral Spirits, which in the revealed footage actually just showed you a monkey. And yeah, the problem with the monkey is that it literally got summoned. It went like this, and then it just ran off to a fucking tree and disappeared. This was on the list to fix before the reveal, according to Jonathan in the interview me and Darth Microtransaction did during our Tavern Talk podcast, where we invited Jonathan Rogers to talk about this. And one of the burning questions we had was, what the hell does the monkey actually do? And the answer was very vague. It's supposed to do something, not run away, though. So what it does, we have no idea. However, what this ascendancy node is doing is giving us ancestral spirits being triggered when you summon a totem. And that's the interesting part here, because what that means is that we're supposed to somehow have some sort of buff, debuff, or some combat efficiency from summoning a spirit, which they totally didn't steal from the Spiritborn class in D4, and then having that trigger every time you summon a totem. And this is why I feel like this class seems to have a more of an emphasis on the different type of melee totems, which looks fantastic, by the way. We saw a totem using Sunder at one point, which looked amazing. We're going to move on to the next node to not make this video too long. The next one is called Jade Heritage. This grants you the skill Encasing Jade. Gain a stack of Jade every second. So this one we talked about a little bit during the interview with Jonathan as well. So this is a single 2-point connecting node with no follow-up. And it basically allows you to, instead of dodge rolling away from an enemy attacks, you can actually encase yourself in Jade, becoming immobile for as long as you hold down this button and basically take no damage. And you can then utilize that instead of a dodge roll to dodge enemy attacks. However, this will also be able to help you sustain and mitigate AoE attacks, which the base version of the dodge roll does not make you avoid the damage of. Not a really big fan of spending 2 ascendancy points to allow you to have a panic button, but, you know, to each their own. I wasn't super excited about this, but I will say that I was more excited about the Warbringer than I am of the Titan. Third node, though, Warcaller's Bellow. Corpses in your presence explode when you Warcry. Not a % chance, not a chance to have 1 or 2 corpses exploding. No. All corpses in your presence will 100% explode when you Warcry, dealing 25% of their life as physical damage. This is one of those clear speed emphasizing or helping nodes or powers where you kill a bunch of enemies. There might be a rare still in the mix. You pop a Warcry, and these monsters that's laying dead around you will now explode to deal significant, massive amounts of damage. This can also be used versus bosses that spawns ads, for example, by killing the ads and then popping a Warcry when the boss is near the corpses. Actually, a rather interesting node, but due to the lack of information of how the endgame will feel when it comes to clear speed, of how we're actually going to be engaging with that, we don't really know if a Warcry on a corpse or utilizing corpses to help clear speed is going to be an effective route to play, but based on the nodes information and the information we have so far, it does look very interesting. Last but definitely not least is called Great Wolf's Howl. This allows you to ignore Warcry cooldowns. And this is a very interesting note, especially because of the Warcaller's Bellow and how this Ascendancy class seemed to focus a bit more on generating debuffs or buffs through Warcries and then just smacking enemies to smithereens, as I mentioned before, but in a very different way compared to the Titan. It's going to be very cool to see what people come up with when it comes to builds for the Warbringer. Like I said before, I will be playing every class in the game, including the Warrior, but I will probably play the Warrior last. This is not really within my fantasy enjoyments, and the Warrior was the class I played the least, but I will say that the Warbringer definitely seems to be the more interesting one, according to me. If you agree with me or disagree, let me know in the comments below. And if you found yourself enjoying this type of content, I would very much appreciate it if you hit the like button, subscribe for more content. It helps the channel out tremendously. And again, leave that comment down below what you think, if you agree with me or not, that the Warbringer seems to be way more fun to play than the Titan. I might be wrong. There are people out there that might like the Onga Bonga Slam stunning approach more than I think it's going to sound like when it comes to enjoyment. But again, hit the like button, subscribe for more content, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. So till then, stay safe and keep rocking.